Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Right, that's good. So, as a short introduction, my name is Arhantia Manolakeli. I graduated from CPU in 2018, and I've been an Atkins employee since then. I hold a Part 2 architectural assistant position, but I'm also a design researcher where I look into kind of research related to new technologies, psychology, design, and kind of bringing that into practice. So I'm based in Warrington, and I also work with the London office of our team, essentially, for the design research role. So today I'm going to be talking about presentation methods and workflows, and more specifically, the use of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign to convey ideas of your project. So that is one of my favorite parts of actually, putting together a project as a whole, because it's the process of shaping the story behind it and a way to narrate your ideas in a way that is very clear. And, it helps capture people's attention and people's interest in a way that really makes a difference. So I want to start with a few questions around why, what, and how. And specifically start with a question of why, and why do we make drawings? I would like to make this a little bit interactive so that people don't fall asleep. So I would like you to turn on your microphone a bit and give me some of your thoughts about why do you think we make drawings?
I'll give it a go. One of the reasons we can make drawings is to convey what we're thinking in our head, because obviously we can't let everyone into our brain. So, putting it on paper to show like clients or tutors and things like that.
Indeed, yeah, that is one reason. Anyone
It's
else?
like a language, right? Because you're trying to express something that you might not be able to explain with words, so it's communicating visually.
Mm-hmm.
To give instruction.
Indeed, yes. So I'm going to move a little bit forward. So I've pointed out four reasons here. So one of them is, as you mentioned, to describe key information about the building context, design, functionality, use, construction. It's basically that kind of idea of this is in my head, this is what I'm trying to tell you, so that you understand it as well. Clearly communicate to others a purpose, ambition, unique character of a design solution. So that is more of the conceptual ideas behind a project. To tell a story, explain, what shaped the design and the process of it coming together, and also showcase our identity as a designer through our own unique style. So I was reading recently something around how, different big architects tend to have a typography that they tend to use quite a lot. Like if you think of Zaha Hadid, for example, or big architects, they tend to have a very, very unique style in their presentation and their architecture that kind of encompasses their whole identity, as designers. So the next question I'm going to talk about as a result is the what. And there's a lot of what questions that we need to ask when we're making a drawing. So we know that we think that drawings are important, but when we make a drawing, we need to make a series of decisions to be able to achieve, the standards and the aims that I outlined before. So there are things like, what is the purpose of this drawing? What information do I need to show to communicate my ideas? What is the most important aspect of what I want to communicate, and what is the best way to show it? And each of these decisions will lead you to a different output for the thing that you're trying to show, to tell the story that you want to tell. what is the purpose of the drawing? In that case, you need to consider your audience, your aim and context, and the level of detail. So if you have, for example, a client presentation, you wouldn't really use very technical language to kind of talk about the story that you're trying to talk about. You're going to try to show something more visual, maybe in 3D, and kind of talk it through like that. If it's an architectural competition, you're going to have specific requirements for size, orientation, content, maybe a word limit, things like that. It tells you specifically what you need to include. And then level of detail, you wouldn't really show conceptual drawings, for example, when a building is at stage 4 or 5, where it goes straight into construction. You would need very technical information. So let's kind of start with an example. In this case, you have a presentation for university or a portfolio to submit. So that is the context that you have. Your audience would be your tutors. The level of detail is what is outlined in your brief, essentially. So the next thing that you need to think about is the information you need to communicate your ideas. And here I have included some things that you may want to show. It can be a vast range of things that you want to show, but for the purposes of this, let's say you want to show the location, context, transport links, and site analysis around a project that you're working on. And the most important aspect of that would be the location of your project in relation to transport links that are, for example, around it, because the context and the concept that you have really relies on that. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine. Just somebody
Right.
trying to come in the meeting. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay, because I'm hearing a ringing in my ears here, and I don't really know what it is.
Really.
Apologies for that. Okay, so say you have decided that the best way to show it, you can select from a series of different things. But say in this case, you want to make a site plan to be able to show that. That information that you have outlined above. So that is all good. You have come to a better understanding of what it is that you need to do. So here is a plan that I got from like the website where I download OS maps. Here is my site. There's a tram stop there. There's a bus stop there. Another tram stop. Great, right? Can you tell me what are the issues with this? If somebody came to you and had presented something in the way that you're looking here.
Nothing really like stands out. So like usually I think I would make the rest of the surrounding area a bit more faint, and then have like the key things that I'm trying to show stand out.
Indeed, there is not a lot of clarity in this drawing. Everything is trying to stand out at the same time. So that makes it pretty difficult to read. Anything else?
I think the line words make it hard to read as well.
Mm-hmm. What about the specific focus of the drawing? Does it draw your eyes anywhere specifically? I think one of what I'm trying to say is that one of the things that tends to stand out with these kinds of things is color. So you see, in this case, the color that really stands out is the red, but actually the red color in this case doesn't really tell me anything. It's just the context, and what I need to focus on is actually what is here in the center and kind of this information here. So if we go back to the things we were looking at before, this drawing describes some key information. Yeah, we have it there. Does it clearly communicate an ambition, a unique character of a design solution? Not really necessarily. It kind of shows where different locations are, but it's not necessarily clear. And then does it tell a story? not really. Does it showcase your identity? Definitely not. And that is because the drawing that you have here is actually not controlled by you. It's controlled by the software that you exported it from. So essentially everything that you see is decided not by you in this case. So a way to fix that is basically through things that we mentioned before. It's things like this. So use of color, line weights, drawing attention to very specific points and elements on there, and basically manipulating the drawings that you have to give it specific character and be able to convey the story that you want to tell. And that kind of brings me to the how. How do we do that? How do I control my presentation? So one way to do that would be the color scheme. So you decide beforehand and before you start your drawing the range of colors that you're going to be using. In this case, as you can see in this presentation, it is yellow, black and white. It's a very simple range. You can also decide on a specific typography. As I mentioned before, different architects tend to have different typographies that they prefer. A very, very, very typical one that people use is Helvetica, because it has a lot of variation within the typography that you can use to create different contrast and different changes within the documents that you have. Another way is to use layout to give, through your arrangement, give hierarchy to different things. And as I mentioned here, there is hierarchy through, what kind of thing do you choose to highlight? For example, automatically here, your eye would be drawn to the darker circle and then not really focus as much on the one that is kind of less visible. And you can do that using contrast color, line weight, etc. Similar thing when it comes to layout is what I have done here. You can see there is a very consistent font that I have used. There is a very consistent layout. You have a title at the top, for example, and then you have all of the information that you need in the center of the main topic. And I have here a bar at the bottom that tells me some general information about what this is about that you're looking at. So that's a way to go about putting together something that is very easily readable. When it comes to color scheme, Pinterest is your friend. If you're having trouble with selecting different colors that match together pretty well, you can choose something that you have found online, or you can pick a main color and two secondary colors, use different hues, or make it black and white with a splash of color, which is what I tend to prefer because I find it very difficult for some reason to match very extreme colors together. So that is my preference. I have a general interest for yellow recently. I don't really know why, but yeah, you can probably tell that. Typography. There are ways to match different types of typography. So you can go with a bold title that draws attention to it, and then italics as a subtitle and a condensed main text that shows their hierarchy of what the person should be focusing on. And there are different ways of doing that. So you can use one font, or you can use many different fonts, well, up to two ideally, so that it doesn't become too busy in there. But the idea is, and that is the key in everything you do. How do you draw attention to the thing that you want the person to focus on, essentially? As I mentioned before, layout is important. Rule of thirds is something that people tend to use quite a lot in photography, in visualization. You had, I know, a presentation last week, I think, on visualization. So you will have talked about angles and how you position a building within a shot. It's very similar when it comes to layout. So as you can see here, your eye kind of usually starts from up here, goes down, and then across, and then down again. So you want to place information that is important in areas that are going to be seen. And basically, you can use the grid to start laying these things out in a way that helps that. So as I mentioned before, other ways to create hierarchy is the use of color. So as I said here, you have like the black is a focus scale. People tend to focus on the thing that is larger first before looking at the smaller bits. Contrast, alignment, and proximity. So it kind of, if you want to be telling a story, it's really important where you draw the attention to in a kind of everything that you do, from your diagrams to your presentations. And in the drawing that I had shown before, I had decided to place the selected sides in the middle and then highlight the most important aspects in a different color with key annotations on the side that explain very, very clearly what it is that is important and basically why that is. This is by no means the best way to do it or the only way to do it. You have to decide that for yourself in your own project. But it's just one of the things that you can do essentially to go about it. So I wanted to show you some examples from my work in third year. When it comes to the drawings that I had decided to do, I wasn't very good with rendering at the time. I was just using SketchUp. So all of my technical drawings weren't really cutting it in many ways. So what I decided to do was to combine a section with a perspective view, and this is the result. As you can see, it has a very distinctive style, but looking back into it, it is also very clear that everything was kind of controlled by the fact that I had a specific SketchUp output that ended up having these pinkish tones. And because I didn't know at the time how to go about fixing that, I ended up tailoring the whole presentation around that. So you see there is a hue into this that is of that style there. And similarly to this image here. But that was one way of kind of approaching my presentation style in a way that read as a thing that comes from the same document and it's made by one person. It doesn't feel like it was essentially made by multiple people and just collated together in a single document. This is another project. This is a fifth year project that we were doing with Mahmoud. It's an urban design project. And you see here that the way of presenting the output was very diagrammatic. So it was kind of a rendered view in one point, and then the rest of it was essentially Illustrator and kind of highlighting very, very specific elements of the buildings that we wanted to talk about, because it was about creating spaces for birds and green roofs and green space. It was about, this kind of diagram was about explaining this process in a little bit more detailed. And the final image that was kind of showing the master plan, that was the final output, also follows this very distinctive style. So if you look at the portfolio, you know that it's all within the same narrative that you're trying to bring together. As I said before, that's not the only way to tackle this. There are multiple ways. There are people everywhere that you can look at. There's Pinterest that has a lot of interesting examples of very nice presentation styles and very interesting drawings. There are these people here that I very recently followed, and I really like the color scheme and the presentation that they have chosen for their work. And there's this kind of style that you can use that is very much architectural, and it is CAD drawings with a little bit of Photoshop done to them. But as you can see, it reads as one thing. And then you can look into people who are very good at presenting their work. Like, for example, Atelier Bow Wow has a very specific very technical style of illustrating an idea through the use of spaces as well as the technical detail. And that is something that is very specific about the way they tend to do things. And you can immediately tell from that style that it is them that have done this project, for example. Same for big architects with their very quick diagrams, concept diagrams. It's a very good way of telling a story of a project that is quite enticing, actually, and it has its own style once again. So after this, I wanted to show you a couple of things. So I am an extensive user of Pinterest, as you can see. There are things that I tend to use quite a lot. I tend to really like putting together some images and precedent images for the style that I want to follow. And then, yep. Yep.
Here's a quick bit of trivia for you. Students might find this interesting as well. A friend of mine at Columbia went to university to study architecture with this guy. He went to the head of school, the dean, and said, I'm going to quit. And the dean said, what are you going to do? He said, I've got a really good idea in relation to precedents in architecture schools. I'm going to create a website. And the dean said, don't be ridiculous. He said, yeah, you'll hear from me in the future. It's going to be called Pinterest.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Great. There you go. Bit of trivia. Sorry, I'm getting you mid-flow, but I'm enjoying this.
I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Yeah. And
wow,
also as well, RPT, I just wanted to let you know, some students have been having some problems getting in because teams are having issues. So we're going to let them access the recording afterwards, but hopefully some of them can join us. Some of them have managed to get on via other devices and as a guest and things like that. But there are a lot of people trying to get in, but they've watched this separately. So I just wanted to let you know.
That's okay. Thank you for letting me know.
As
long as it's recorded, it's all good.
Absolutely. I think it's recording. Yeah, it is recording. It's a YouTube. Yeah, perfect. Cheers.
No worries. So what I wanted to say is basically the way I go about it is before I start a project, I look for a holistic style for it that I'm interested in. I usually tend to go for things like that tend to be very diagrammatic with a single color. And then after I decide on that presentation style, that is when I go into what I want to do with the visualization of the project and what I want to do with the 2D drawings of the project to kind of showcase that idea behind it. So the reason why I'm kind of today covering a little bit more of a broad range of things in the sense of it's not really just about the presentation, it also applies to the visualization side, is because that has to be kind of a well thought out and common decision for these things so that it reads as one thing. Both your diagrams and your 2D drawings and your visualization, it's really important for them to read as one project. So it's really key to decide these kinds of things before you start putting a presentation together and producing work so that you don't then need to do double the amount of work to decide to fix things and make them match to each other. So that is basically what I do. And there's another one here. I really like sections. So I have a whole board on here with different kinds of diagrammatic, detailed 3D sections, different diagrams that people have done just as inspiration on here. And I also have a massive board with different color schemes. So depending on, even for the office, depending on the different presentation that I want to do, I can really quickly look into different things and decide what it is that I want to pick out. And it's a really fun process to go through, for me at least. That really helps produce really cohesive presentations that really read well for clients, for tutors. It kind of really helps tell that kind of story. So I have two examples here. So, and one of them is the 5th year project that I had showcased before. I just wanted to show you what it looks like as a presentation as a whole. just to, from kind of a distance, to look at it holistically to see how it reads together as a document. So I kind of regret the color choice of very bright green in some cases, but reading through this, you can actually see that it has a very clear cut way of putting things together. And you know in every page where you're going to find something. So as you can see here, there is a text that is on the top left-hand side. Using the rule of thirds, we decided to put it there. And all the important information is on your right. And there is enough space to show one diagram that has a lot of detail on what it is that we're trying to talk about. And you see, we use some pages here, but we also have dividers in the middle to break up the presentation, show something that is an important quote, or create a divider between different sections. For site analysis, between that and the proposed project that you have, there's different use of images, and there's a variety between diagrams and different kinds of drawings. So the way that you can use to tell your story doesn't really have to be through only diagrams or only plans and sections and elevations. It can be photographs, it can be anything that you think is useful for that. Basically, it goes back to deciding what it is that you want to show and how. So this is one of the drawings, and then if I go all the way down to the drawings of the buildings. So here we have embedded video, for example. What we decided to do was to show the buildings as a diagram. So start with a render, add diagrams to highlight the very specific things that each of the typologies does. But that is because we didn't really have at the time specific requirements for things. So for you, that would be to have them and also adapt the presentation depending on the brief that you need to follow on this. Another similar presentation is this one here that was done for 5th year. It was done for the professional studies work that Rob Hyde was running at the time. And this is not really related necessarily to the portfolio. It's more about kind of business operations and how you propose an architectural business. But what I want you to notice is the fact that there is a very specific style that runs through the presentation that helps it read through diagrams and through text and through placement as one thing. And that makes it look very professional and very legible. So I think that has made a point, I think. And on that note, I think the point is, what do you need to show, and focus on that when you're trying to make a presentation, instead of I need to make 10 drawings for the submission and kind of here they are. So to do that, you need to treat your portfolio as a mini design project in itself. And in the process of that, don't spend too long on Pinterest, decide things pretty early on and have fun with it. Because it is also part of the work and the project that you're doing.